Hey, good morning. Just giving everybody a few minutes to jump on here before we continue. Just want to make sure that I don't leave anybody out as everybody tries to jump on this morning. So I don't ever know how many are joining me, but I do want to make sure that I give everybody just a minute or two to jump on if they are planning to join this morning. Okay, so a couple of things. One, I'm working on the September calendar. Tomorrow is the first day of September, and I meant to have that out Friday, and I realized that I just didn't ever get finished with it. So I will make sure that I send out and post the September calendar for what's coming up this week. A couple of things that are coming up is working on finishing this this unit. We started the Urban America unit last week, doing section 1 on Thursday, and today we're going to look at doing section 2 and 3 today. We'll do section 4 tomorrow, and then section 5 on Wednesday to wrap up. And I do need you guys to be ready for a unit quiz on Wednesday. And I think we're going to try and do SchoolNet again for this week's quiz as well. And I'll make sure that everybody knows that and is prepared for that. So that's a quiz for this week. It is a short unit, and I'll try and get through it kind of fast because we actually took more time than what I meant to last week preparing for our first unit combo test, actually. So don't forget, we are halfway through the first 6 weeks. This is week 4 right now, making sure that you're staying on top of activities and assignments. All right, let's go ahead and get into it, because if anybody else is joining, they're just going to have to catch up once they get on here. Okay, so a couple of things getting into Unit 2. All my PowerPoint notes have already been uploaded. I think I uploaded all that early last week. The only thing that I didn't put up that I just now realized is my videos kind of talking about some of the extra info. So I'll make sure that I throw that up right after we get off this, actually. All right, so section 2 stuff is all about urbanization and what's happening with new technology and what's happening with cities, which I think is really interesting during this time period. Talking about skyscrapers. Now that we have a way to make cheaper grade steel, now we're making and building skyscrapers. We're talking about sports, like what sports activities people are going to watch, going to the circus, going to variety shows. Like, these are forms of entertainment. And the very first theme park is going to open as well at the turn of the century. Coney Island in New York is the first theme park to get open. So it's kind of interesting to talk about all these new pieces of technology and things that are making life a little bit easier. All right, so section 2, question 10, what new technologies made the building of skyscrapers possible? I didn't mean to, but I just answered that already. But it's the Bessemer process. So we know that Andrew Carnegie, who has a rags to riches story, right? He comes over as an immigrant, 2 nickels in his pocket, ends up learning from another businessman techniques, blows all his money on trying out the Bessemer process. It works for him, thank goodness. And he has a cheaper, good, high quality steel, and now we can build skyscrapers and start going up. So that is Bessemer, B-E-S-S-M-E-R, Bessemer process. Number 11 says, how did the living conditions of the working, middle, and upper class compare? So working conditions for the lower class, those are the Americans that are probably most of your immigrants that don't have any type of education or very little education. And those individuals are going to be the ones working for low pay, long hours, and don't really, they can't fuss or lose, they'll lose their job. So it's kind of a dangerous situation for those workers, whereas your middle class workers are probably the ones that have some sort of trade skill. Blacksmiths, carpenters, they're the ones that are going to be paid a little bit better, not much better, a little bit better, have a little bit better treatment because they're a little bit more valuable, and most likely they do have some kind of education. Theoretically, most people don't have above what we would call an 8th grade education, just because if you are a working class individual, there's just not any time for you to be going off to school. You need to be working, making money, helping pay bills. Whereas your upper class are going to have your office jobs, if they have any job at all, you know, unless they're just living off of some family money. They're going to have jobs with better hours, much better pay, more power and authority, and they don't even have to worry about losing their job. It's kind of guaranteed for them. So better pay, better hours. And I tell you what, I probably should have said this to begin with. It probably is easier just to list this out. So lower class, bad pay, bad hours, and then middle class, skilled workers, better pay, and then upper class is better jobs, better pay, and more power. All right, number 12, why were pollution and sewage a problem in American cities? Because the turn of the century is the very beginning of water sanitation systems, the very beginning of a sewage system, the very beginning of trash pickup. So think about these major cities like Chicago and New York and Philadelphia, the very beginning of being environmentally friendly and putting in indoor plumbing. That's another one. Establishing indoor plumbing, establishing sewage systems and water treatment plants, and again, trash pickup. All the things that are vital to keep a city clean, organized, and to keep disease low, not gone, because again, you still have the high numbers, but to keep diseases numbers down. All right, 13 says, why and how did political machines help city dwellers in the late 1800s? So that's a big part in your notes, is making sure you understand what a political machine is. So a political machine is not an actual machine. It's talking about people. And it is people in high-ranking political positions that are using power and wealth to control all of an area, all of a city. So, and it's usually one political party. So let's say if we're talking about Boss Tweed was a Democrat that controlled New York City for about 10 years. And he kept control by using the lower class, by threatening them. If you don't vote for me, then I'll get you kicked out of your apartment. You don't vote for me, then I'll make you get fired. Like they use that because, whoops, sorry. Hold on, there we go. Because there's no secret ballots. So they could very much come up and watch you vote and see whether or not you vote for them. And if you don't, then they're being bullies essentially. And they have that much authority that they can come up to the business owner at your job and say, hey, you need to fire so-and-so, he didn't vote for me. And it would happen. Again, there's no workers' compensation. There's nothing that guarantees you your job or apartment, or whatever the situation may be. Now, there is the other end of the spectrum. You do have political machines that actually did good. They made sure, but again, it's in exchange for votes. Everything is in exchange for votes. If you vote for me, I'm going to make sure that your bills get paid for the month. If you vote for me, I'm going to make sure that the police come to your neighborhood if there's ever any trouble. They controlled police. They controlled the court systems. They worked with big business owners. So that's a lot of power and wealth. And none of that is illegal yet. It is today, obviously, but it's not illegal yet. So these political machines kept power. They exchanged votes for either good or bad. It kind of depends on the situation. You know, you vote for me and keep me in office, and I'll make sure you keep your job. you don't vote for me, then I'll make sure that you get kicked out of your apartment. So threats is how a lot of it went down. Okay, you've got a couple of IDs that go with this section. Louis Sullivan is a quiz question. He is the architect of the first skyscraper. And another quiz question is, how tall is the first skyscraper? And it's 10 stories. First skyscraper is 10 stories. Okay. All right. The next one is a tenement. And a tenement is just apartment building. Write that down. Apartment building. A tenement is a small, poorly built, cramped apartment building, because right now is kind of that transitional time before we start having building codes and zoning laws, and making sure that buildings are actually built to code, that they're safe, that they're not going to collapse if somebody throws a brick at the building, you know. So a lot of these things are changing during this time period as well. And there actually is a tenement museum. If you go to New York, they actually did try and keep and preserve some of these old apartment buildings, just so you could see how terrible they were. I mean, a one-bedroom apartment or tenement is something that would house a family of 10 or 12 people. You know, a one-bedroom, 800 square feet. You got 10, 12 people stuffing in there just because they couldn't afford more than that. Party boss is talking about a leader or a political figure that is running all of a city. They call them the party boss. Graft is illegal money that's being made, or money being made through illegal means. And then Boss Tweed, he's the guy that was the political party boss over the Democrats in New York City. So he's the one that you're going to see quiz questions on. He's the one that was running the show in New York City for almost 10 years. That's a long time. But again, political jobs mean power and money, and that's why he wanted it. All right, what goes along with this is Section 3. That's why we're going to do Section 3 along with today. And there's not but 3 questions and a couple of IDs. 19 says, what was the main idea of social Darwinism? I actually talked about it a little bit last week. Social Darwinism is survival of the fittest in the business world. So when we talk about Rockefeller, and we talk about Carnegie, and we talk about JP Morgan, and we talk about Vanderbilt, all these millionaire and billionaires have kept their money through arguing social Darwinism. You know, I've become a millionaire and billionaire because I have worked hard and I've pushed, right? It's the survival of the fittest, kind of like what Charles Darwin talked about, survival of the fittest, but he meant species. You know, like this bird is going to be successful in mating and continuing to live for generations because they can camouflage themselves, you know, survival of the fittest, right? But this is talking about in the business world that, you know, Carnegie's steel industry, you can't beat their prices and their mass production. So those strategies are going to help him become a billionaire and stay a billionaire, mostly because he's paying his workers slave wages and horrible working hours, and they don't have the power to change anything, unfortunately. All right, 2 questions left. What actions did Congress take to regulate big business? So we see the very beginning, we realize change has to happen for all this bad stuff to get better, right? Sherman Antitrust Act, that's your answer. The Sherman Antitrust Act of 1896 is the very beginning, is a baby step in trying to regulate big business, these trusts, these big monopoly businesses. It's not very strong, so it won't actually accomplish that much, but it's better than nothing, right? I mean, we're making a step in the right direction to start coming down on these big business owners and start fighting for workers' rights. All right, the last question says, what was the purpose of a settlement house? Because we've got some new people to be introduced to, and Jane Addams is one of your IDs. So a settlement house is a homeless shelter, essentially. It's a homeless shelter for women and children to help get them off the streets, educate them, help get the mother a job, help get the kids in school and taken care of. So she got the idea by vacationing in Europe. And if you were wealthy, that's what you did. You know, we think of vacation as going to Myrtle Beach or the mountains, but that was not the case. If you're wealthy, you vacation in Europe. Wouldn't that be nice to have that kind of money? But while she was touring Europe, she was in France and saw these settlement houses and kept asking what they were and what was the purpose. And they said that that's, you know, it acted as a homeless shelter. So when she came back, she kind of became what we have as our first social worker that starts helping out individuals, again, to get better jobs, be educated, get a house, get up off the streets. You know, they were originally homeless. So it's pretty awesome that she paves the way for that. All right, so looking at your IDs, you've only got 4. Gilded Age is one of them. The Gilded Age is, I'm trying to think of how to make a short definition, because when you talk about something being gilded, it's almost like taking a rotten egg and painting it gold. It looks pretty on the outside, but on the inside it's stinky, nasty, dirty, yucky, right? So Gilded Age is, I guess we could say the same thing. Looks good on the outside, but on the inside it's corrupt. It's bad. It's I can't even think of what else I was going to say. Just corrupt. We can just say corrupt. All right, last couple, Gospel of Wealth. Again, Gospel of Wealth are people that are trying to make a difference and make a positive change. So Gospel of Wealth is helping those that need it. To summarize, helping those that need it. This is the very beginning of Salvation Army, the YMCA. And if you don't know what YMCA stands for, it's the Young Christian Men's Association, and started out as a homeless shelter for men to give them a place to sleep. It educated them, gave them a place to kind of get themselves up and going, get a job. Okay, so Salvation Army, YMCA, Habitat, all these things got going because of the Gospel of Wealth. Help those that are less fortunate. And last but not least, Jane Addams, again, first social worker, started Settlement House, started Whole House. Her settlement house is called Whole House, and it's in Chicago. That is a quiz question, so make sure that you highlight that, okay? All these things, all of your IDs and SQs, you're going to see as quiz questions on Wednesday's quiz. So make sure that you're going through your PowerPoint notes. You watch those videos that I post this afternoon of me going over those pages of notes. And we'll make sure that tomorrow and Wednesday we start working on review for that quiz. And I think it's pretty short. I think it's like 15 or 20 questions. It's pretty short. What I consider to be short anyway for a quiz. Okay, so make sure that you completed your other activities, the immigrant experience activity, which I talked about it in one of the Zoom videos last week. And then the other thing is making sure that you did that Ellis Island and Statue of Liberty story, which I think is really interesting, kind of how they were treated coming in through Ellis Island. Remember, it's your lower class immigrant passengers that are having to come in and do physical exams, have their stuff checked before they can make it into New York Harbor. So a couple of interesting stories, and I hope you guys enjoy looking at that. Again, what's coming at you this week, today, I will send out your September calendar. I'll have those note videos for you to check out and watch and follow along. Make sure you're reviewing stuff as you go for your quiz on Wednesday. I think that's the big stuff. Justin, did you have any questions while you were on here? Just in case you asked me anything, I can't hear you. Hopefully it's not an audio issue again. Well, I tell you what, if you've got something for me, you can just throw it in that chat box really quick. Okay, do you know what numbers you need me to go back and talk about? 12, 17, 24, 25. Okay. All right, hold on. Let me mark them down really quick. Okay. All right, go back to 12. 12 says, why were pollution and sewage a problem in American cities? We had not started up trash pickup and indoor plumbing yet. We needed trash pickup and indoor plumbing to start cleaning up the cities and streets. All right, 17, graft is talking about stealing money from the government, stealing money. All right, and then 24 and 25. 24, social gospel, helping those that are less fortunate. And then Jane Addams, you can put social worker. Social worker, and she established Whole House in Chicago, which you'll see in your notes and PowerPoint. So social worker, started up Whole House in Chicago. Do you have anything else for me? Okay. All right, if you think of something else, either read my message or email me. And other than that, we will call it a day. Have a happy Monday.